Welcome to Eternal Security, Faith or Fiction. And let me tell you, this webinar tonight is jam-packed with a lot of information. This is no small topic, and it has not only lots of information that's been written about this today, but this has been something that goes back, way back, and has been an issue that has led to many discussions and has led to profound insights as well as great air. And tonight, our goal is to help you learn how to study this subject with Logos Bible software. And that brings us to the question, what is the purpose of this webinar, or for that matter, any webinar at LearnLogos.com? First and foremost, I want to provide you training so that you can use Logos Bible software more effectively. We want to provide the kind of training so that you can study the topic for yourself. I certainly don't have all the answers, and you don't have all the answers, but when we work together and we bring in Logos and we bring in other resources, we can study a topic pretty thoroughly. Along the way, we are going to provide biblical insights related to the topic, and we're going to provide materials so you can equip yourself and others. And tonight will be no different. In fact, let me give you a sneak preview to the personal book. This thing's almost 15 pages long, and it is just filled with a lot of helps and links and additional information to help you study this topic for yourself. As you can see, there's 15 topics here. Right now, we're in the introduction. We'll have recommended resources, and you can see in the personal book, we're going to talk about the various views. We've got links to searches. We've got links to keyword studies. We've got links to key verses. There's just a lot of information in here to help you study this immense and important topic. So very excited to bring you this personal book, which is available with the purchase of the webinar. Here's the topics for tonight. We're in the introduction. We're going to look at recommended resources. We're going to talk about why there is even a debate. You know, we talk about Scripture being clear, and the technical term for that is perspicuity. And I'm a firm believer that the Scripture is clear, but when you get into some of the nuances and some of the difficult doctrines, it can get a little overwhelming sometimes, and confusion can follow. And so what we want to try to do is understand, why is there a debate on this, and then help you study for yourself so you can see what the Scriptures actually say. We're going to learn about some key terms. We'll talk about the 4 major views. We'll talk about 2 major categories of people in the Bible. We'll touch a little bit on the unbreakable chain, the key passage, Romans 28 through 30. We'll even talk about, hypothetically, could someone lose their salvation? So I'm kind of tipping my hand a little bit there, and that is, I do hold to the view, just so you know, as the trainer here, I do hold to the view that you cannot lose your salvation, but that doesn't mean I'm not going to give a fair and balanced a view of the other views. So hang in there. Don't turn me off just yet. How to work through the contested passages, very important there, and there are a lot. What are the related doctrines and topics? One thing that's fascinating about this particular topic is you get this wrong, or better, I'll say it this way. Certainly if you get it wrong, you run the risk of getting other passages wrong. But this doctrine is built around other doctrines. So what you say about eternal security has huge implications into what you say about what is faith, what is justification, and so forth. So this is one of those unique doctrines that is connected to everything else in the Bible, which is one reason why it's so hotly contested, but there's so many nuances and tangents that people can go on. And so I'll help you try to get your arms around that so you know the obstacles you have to overcome, the issues you need to address, so that you can truly discover what the Scriptures say on this. We'll look at some key character studies. We'll look at some additional word studies. We'll have some other considerations for further study. We'll talk about practical implications for living the Christ-like life, and just a couple miscellaneous links at the end. So as you can see, there's a lot in here. And again, a lot of this is going to be focused on how to use Logos with the notes as a guide to structure your study path through this topic. That really is the goal tonight. Getting started, I got this real simple picture that I think will come in handy when we talk about eternal security and perseverance, 2 words that are nearly synonymous. Now, the way this graph is described is you have infinity in eternity past, and you have infinity eternal future. And when we talk about eternal security, is we're dealing with this area of, okay, a person is born, they get saved. what happens then? Are they eternally secure? Can they lose their salvation? And so I want you to kind of just visualize that. And so these three terms, justification, sanctification, and glorification, are very important terms. So when we talk about justification, we're talking about a faith that is saving faith. That's where a person repents and puts their faith and trust in Christ alone for their salvation. When we talk about sanctification, we're talking about that obedience, that process of becoming more and more like Christ. And that's why it's a kind of a graph there going up and down, because we don't become perfect in this life. And so we have moments where we're more like Christ. We have moments where we're not like Christ. And so, but it's a process that overall we should be becoming more and more conformed with Christ. And then glorification is that time where we are resurrected and we get our new bodies, and therefore sin is dealt with. In fact, another way that one author put this, which I really like, is justification is we're delivered from the penalty of sin. Sanctification is the process where we are being delivered from the power of sin. And glorification is that final destiny where we will be delivered from the very presence of sin. And it's really important you understand those three categories, because that makes it easy for us to talk about this topic. So anyway, I just drew this together to kind of help you visualize what we're talking about. Okay, so let's jump in to the personal book. And again, use the Q&A box for writing questions to me directly where no one else will see it, and use the chat box to share questions among yourselves or as just to share it publicly. All right, the first place we got to begin is with recommended resources. And what I'd like to do right out of the gate is help you find existing resources in your library before you spend another dollar, and see what books you already have on this topic. So let's create this search together. Let's go to search, and let's go to basic search. So search, click on here, basic search. And make sure the search criteria states all text and entire library. If you've already got a collection in there, just click on the box, type in entire, and choose entire library. Now, the search I have in here, which is in the personal book, you can just copy and paste once you get the personal book. But let me break it down for you. First, we have the word heading, colon, quote, eternal space security. Eternal security is one of the key phrases that you're going to find in a lot of books that discuss this topic. Then space, all capital letters, or. Now, what does this do? This is a Boolean search operator, fancy word for saying, look, don't just look for eternal security, but I also want you to look for this other phrase, heading, colon, assurance. So that's the second keyword that's very important in your library. The third one is or, heading, colon, quote, perseverance, quote. Now, these are all single words, so technically they don't need quotes, but I just kind of have gotten in the habit, because whenever I have two or more words, I do need to put those in quotes. So that's really good. Even though I've done three of these, heading eternal security, heading assurance, heading perseverance, I actually repeat all three of these, but I use a different search operator, large text. Now, this came up in a previous webinar, and you may be wondering, John, what's the difference between heading and large text? Well, different books are tagged different way in Logos. Some are tagged with the heading, and so it's actually a heading of an article, like you would see in a, let's say, a dictionary. Large text usually is a heading, but it may or may not. It's just something that is large text. And usually when something's a heading or a large text, that's usually an article or a paragraph heading. So it's a way of kind of saying to you, hey, what follows is going to be all about this topic. So by searching on the headings and the large text, we're going to return not these words inside an article, but these words that head up an article. And thus, our search results should be better and more appropriate. Lonnie asked a great question. Does assurance have to be capitalized? No need to do that. So glad you caught that. So it doesn't matter if it's big or small. Now, if you run this search against your entire library, you'll begin to see how the search results coming back. And notice that the headings and the large text are listed right there. So perseverance, assurance, apostasy, perseverance of the saints. You can see the headings are in there. And the large text, we go down further. Now, here's an example where we go to week 10. It's not in the heading, but perseverance of faith is the large text. So by searching on these two types of terms, or these three terms, we can find pretty much everything in our library that deals with this topic. Now, let me show you a neat little trick. Let's go to by count or by title, doesn't matter. Now, the reason I'm showing this next step is the question you're probably asking is, oh man, John, that's a lot of resources I got back in my search. How do I save all these books? Now, unfortunately, there's no way to, let's say, export the search results into a collection directly. Now, you could save the search. You could do that. You could go to Documents. You could go to Notes, which I'm doing right now, and you could type in, let's say, Eternal Security Resources. And what we could do is we could type in, we could click Add Note at the top, and we could say Books and Resources. All right, that'll be my heading. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to the Content section, and I'm going to put in Search Results. Now, what I'm going to do next is very important. I'm going to go back to my search window. I'm going to click on the Resource panel, and I'm going to choose Copy Location as URL. Next, I'm going to go back to my notes, select Search Results, click on the chain icon, right-click, and choose Paste. And then press Enter. As soon as you right-click and choose Paste, make sure you press Enter. That's the best way to do this. Now I'm going to close my search window down, nothing up my virtual sleeve, and I'm going to click on Control-Click Search Results. And you'll notice the search results reran. This is probably the easiest way to store a search. Now, Logos does save the search results. If you click on the little triangle here, you can see it saved. But over time, more searches that you do later will eventually overwrite that. And so you'll lose that search history. So this is a great way to do it. But let's get down to something more important. What if we wanted to create a collection of all these books? Now, this is a little bit tedious, but it will work. I'll do a handful so you get the concept down. So what you can do is you can go into, let's say, the first book. Now, I don't want to have the religious abstracts, so I'll pass on that. But here's a book, Assurance of Salvation. All I got to do is click on one of the links that are underneath the book, and then close up that book. Let's go to the next one. I'm looking through the titles, and I'm saying, okay, here's 4 views on eternal security. I'll click that first link, click on the book title. That'll close and collapse, and I can begin to work through my list. Now, if I see something, let's say like the journal, and I see that they've got something on baptism assurance, I'm going to click that. And again, I'm just scrolling through my search results to see, here's one, Totally Saved, Understanding Experience. Now, this is a Tony Evans book by Moody, so you may not have available, if you don't have this available now, you won't be able to purchase it because Moody no longer publishes with Logos, unfortunately. Hopefully that'll change in the future. Here's another one, Saved Without a Doubt, and we can click on here. All right, so you could go through your whole search result list and click on just one of the links of the book so that the book is opened in your workspace. Once you have all the books opened, here's where things get interesting. I'm going to click on Documents, and I'm going to click on Bibliography right here. Now, the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to click on Add, and I'm going to choose from the menu All Open Resources. And what happens? All the books I just opened are now available in my bibliography list. But we're not finished. How do we go from here to create a collection? Well, if you click right up here in the resource panel, there's a menu option in the bibliographic document called Save as a Collection. And if we click on that, the collection window opens up and it populates all the books inside our bibliography or inside our collection. And now we could go ahead and give it a name. So we could put in Topic Eternal Security. And now we have created a collection of all our resources on the topic of eternal security. This is a handy way to take search results and get them into a collection that you later can search those books on this topic. So all you do is click New. That automatically saves it. And now if we go to Search and we type in Eternal Security, you'll see Eternal Security shows up right here, and now we can search those books and we can find those articles immediately. Now we're not searching the whole library, but searching those specific books that we have deemed relevant to this topic. So this is a great way to create a collection that you can then do more searches later. And let me tell you, you're going to need to do this on this topic because the books that deal with this topic tend to be in-depth. They have a lot of cross-references, a lot of information, and you're going to want to search just those books. So great little technique there. Let me go ahead and close my resources and get us back on track with the personal book webinar. One more thing. After you do this process, it's okay to delete the bibliography document. So let's go to Documents, Bibliography, locate bibliography in the list. You'll probably see it there labeled Today, and just right-click anywhere and choose Delete. And that's something I recommend you do for good housekeeping, because you really don't need that bibliography anymore, unless, of course, you're writing a paper or something along those lines.